Just arriving back in Hamburg, and I'm just gonna brush my teeth. Don't mind me, because I've literally not got time to waste on wasting time. I've gotten to this level of efficiency where this is my vlog. Walking down the street, and I don't care what people think anyway, so yeah, this has always been the case. I mean, it gets awkward in like immediate direct contact, so when people are coming up, so then I'll stop doing it. But you know, for the rest of it, just watch my vlog about shame. And a friend made a very good point when I asked her for her honest feedback, because she's always giving me great feedback on stuff. And she said, you talked about shame a lot and you made some good points, but you didn't clarify how to actually make that mindset shift. That's a really good point, because I haven't rewatched it, it's not fresh in my mind right now, but something like I said, I gave a lot of reasons why shame doesn't make sense and why we should overcome it and just kind of slip out of it. But the question is, how do you slip out of it? How do you just, what's the process of transcending it? And so I wanted to go back and say, I think a great part of that for me is just practice makes perfect. Oh, and someone's getting pulled over by the police. Oh dear. So it's just like constantly, I guess, sometimes I was intentionally exposing myself to the types of shame that I wanted to overcome, that I knew, okay, this is not like re-traumatizing, this is just like jumping into cold water kind of practice, you know? And then also mentally preparing for rehearsing, and also then after the fact deconstructing situations that caused shame. And just being super rational is really, really helpful for these kinds of things. But I know that not everyone is. And there isn't one mode that is best for everything. So rationality is also not the best for everything. But that really, really helps, because if you can kind of decouple this animalistic instinct and this reaction of being like, oh, there's my shame, and just take a moment, detach the way meditation teaches you, then you can look at the whole thing and be like, okay, so this is what's happening, this is how I'm reacting, why? Where is this coming from? Do I want to accept it? Do I want to change it? And that's a very, very, very powerful principle. That's why meditation is so great for so many things. I thought about doing like a series on the basic emotions. You know, I already have shame. I'm pretty sure I talked quite a bit about anger at some point, repressed anger, and people taking it out in different ways. And so I was like, oh, let's do fear and let's do sadness. But I don't know, it seemed kind of tacky. This is just a vlog, so I'm not gonna do that. But it is super important to feel your emotions, to embrace them, accept them. You've heard this a million times before, but people don't take it seriously because it sounds so hippie. And everyone's like, yeah, you know, that's for primary school children, or people who don't have an important job like me, or people who have time, they're not parents, and they're not blah blah. We're all making excuses for it. Or like, I'm too cool for that. No one's too cool for that. We all have emotions, we all have to feel them, because if you don't, guess what? They're gonna bubble up somehow else. So best pay attention to them, address them however works best, and then they can resolve instead of getting suppressed, or you working against them for an unnecessarily long amount of time with an unnecessary amount of expended energy or some other negative outcome. If you just let them be, then it's like a firework, or like something burning up in smoke, and it's had its process and it's gone. Yeah, okay. So I'm almost arriving, and I'm gonna stop now. This was pretty rambly, sorry about that. But I do need to finish brushing my teeth. I'm passing a shisha bar. Hello, fancy people. Yeah, and something that I wrote recently, where was that? Oh yeah, an Instagram post, was there's no point just becoming super efficient just for the sake of it, I think. I think it's also really important to think about, what am I going to do with all this efficiency and effectiveness and efficacy? And for me, well, it's contribution. It's always been contribution. I'm pretty selfless when it comes to life design. And so people have started asking me or telling me recently, like, oh, your lifestyle seems so intense, so exhausting, so draining, so demanding, so blah blah blah. And they start wishing for me that it'll be over soon. They're like, oh, you know, you're almost there. It's gonna be great. It's okay. Just hold on. Blah blah. I've started saying blah blah a lot recently. That's not a great replacement for etc. or similar. And then I started to realize and actually be brave enough and clear enough about it to tell them, you know, this is not going to change, actually. Even after I've made it, even after I've resolved my immigration or financial or any other situation, this is how I want to live, because I really resonated with something that David Goggins says but he says it in a way that I didn't quite like it, so it took me a lot of years to then find that resonance subconsciously and get back to it. But he talks about his soul being like a towel that is getting wringed and squeezed until every last drop of water has left the towel. And he thinks that's like kind of his godly purpose, is to make sure that he's really wringing himself to give everything he has to give in this life. And that's why he pushes his body to the limit. And yeah, I believe in the more creative, generating kind of giving. It's not like I'm gonna expunge myself out of something, but rather I'm gonna learn to create something to give. But it's a really, really nice stoic kind of picture to have in mind of like, is there more that I can give? Because what else am I here for? You know, of course there's a lot of other things you can say you were here for, but I like that approach. And so I'm gonna continue to feel my feels and become even more efficient constantly, and say good night. See you in the next one.